here's Brody Brazil.
I just wanted to start off by giving you complete transparency on one of my guiding principles here in running this YouTube channel. If I'm being honest, I usually make videos on specific topics for one of two reasons. Sometimes it's completely my idea. It's my ambition. I'm the reason we're doing this video, and if one person watches it or a million people watch it, doesn't matter. I'm doing it because I was interested. I really wanted to do this video. I really wanted to get this topic out of my brain, off my chest, and on your screens. The other reason why I do videos is because I get the request from viewers in the comment section or on the voicemail line. They say, hey, we would really like to hear your take on this topic. And I want to be clear about A's groundbreaking in Las Vegas, almost a week ago. I really wasn't interested in making this video because I wasn't sure there were enough things to talk about or take away that we couldn't easily have predicted from before. I just want to make this clear. The reason I'm doing this video is because enough of you have asked for it. I also feel a certain responsibility, as I've said before, to cover this story until the chapter is closed. Not even the chapter is closed, until the story is written and until they're playing baseball games in Las Vegas. To a certain degree, I will keep tabs on the latest developments, including this groundbreaking, of which I will now bring you 7 different takeaways. And I got to be honest, didn't watch the full ceremony, saw plenty of clips and highlights, and probably everything I need to know. But I also want to translate that as I bring you these 7 takeaways. It's not because I sat down and watched the entire 90 minutes or 2 hours from about a week ago. First takeaway. This was the starting gun, and whether you're somebody who supports the project or is entirely 100% against the A's building a stadium on the Strip, nobody forced this groundbreaking to happen when it did, how it did. I mean, it was initially planned for February of this year, then April of this year, and then in early June, we figured out it would happen. The groundbreaking, the official ceremonial groundbreaking would happen by the end of this month. But nobody mandated that the A's hold this ceremony, I don't think. And my point in saying that is that if they really weren't ready for it behind the scenes, they didn't have to do this. But the analogy I want to make here, the comparison I want to make here, is that this is kind of like shooting the starting gun at a track meet, at a race. And now that the gun has been fired, the race begins. 32 months from now, a ballpark has to be ready, or that's the plan, that's the target, 32 months for a baseball stadium to be 100% ready. Who knows about the surrounding 26 acres on this site? Who knows about tariffs or financial issues or labor delays or anything else that could go on? I mean, baseball is probably going to have a work stoppage. I don't think that relates directly to this construction project, but a lot is bound to happen, maybe good, maybe bad, in the next 32 months. But this is the starting gun. And this project and the progress that is either made or not made at this site, they're very visible. We're not doing this at some remote site in the middle of nowhere. This is happening on the Las Vegas Strip. There are vantage points from all over. And I've seen some of the videos of tractors moving dirt around already and some construction equipment starting to show up on site. Yes, things are obviously happening there. But my point is, if in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months down the road, by the end of 2025, if you look at that site and it doesn't look much different than today, just pointing out the obvious, there's going to be a ton of speculation. So you can talk about being ready for the race. You can talk about being in the starting block. You can talk about all the training and preparation. But as of right now, the starting gun has gone off and the race begins, and we'll see how quickly this thing is sprinting away. Second takeaway is the reputations that are now officially attached to this project by showing up at the groundbreaking ceremony. The governor of Nevada, Joe Lombardo, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred, and other politicians and other dignitaries who were all in attendance, they have now put their stamp officially on this. And it's not to say they weren't supportive of it before, but if you're looking for, in my opinion, one of the bigger reasons why this is more likely now than ever to happen in Las Vegas, whether it's ready for it or not, but why other people might help out, is because of all these people who now have their image attached to groundbreaking. And if it doesn't happen, like the construction and the project don't happen, they don't want this groundbreaking thing to eventually come back and bite them and say, well, what about the groundbreaking you were at? And now this project is having issues. My point is, everybody with power, everybody with influence at that ceremony who is now attached to it is now going to do whatever they can to make sure that it happens. The photos, the speeches, all the promises are on record. We have you at that site promising something specific. And so, of course, everybody who's now more attached to this because of showing up to the groundbreaking is probably going to find a way to support and help. And to the point where if construction projects get out of hand, construction prices get out of hand, and that Nevada legislative session happens again in 2027, do you think the A's might go back and say, well, we need another $350 million from the state? It's possible, right? Because at that point, well, we're close. We only need this little bit more amount than we needed back in the summer of 2023 when it was approved. Hey, 4 years is a lot of time. Costs have gone up. It's very likely that the A's could go back to the state and to the county and ask for more help, more public subsidies on this project. I mean, look, other football teams now are getting $400, $500, $600 million. Look at the Cleveland Browns, $600 million from the state. It kind of makes $380 from a couple years ago look like not that much, or maybe not enough. So that's probably going to be the tactic. But again, reputations attached to this project, I think, are now going to have a different influence than they've ever had before. The rented equipment that was placed behind those glass windows, which was all in a temporary building, which is, weird to have groundbreaking of a stadium indoors, but I get it. It's hot even at 7 or 8 in the morning, whatever time that was. But look, a company was hired to create a show. The groundbreaking, planter box, whatever that was, they weren't even digging in real dirt outside. There was dirt, then a floor put on top of that, then the planter box. I get it. It was all a facade. It was all a show, and people will point the finger at the A's to say, this was their doing. Look, they hired a company to put on a show. I don't know that 1,000%, but I can see what happened there, and I'm pretty familiar with how these events go. A company was hired to make it look like that and to put bulldozers and tractors in the background because it just looks more like an official construction site. And again, being indoors was kind of like, what? Has that ever happened before for a major league stadium? More out of necessity, but it just kind of made the style and function feel weird. Anyway, probably couldn't do actual construction in the background, but wouldn't that have been more appropriate to see actual work taking place? Wouldn't that have more meaning and add more gravity and leverage to the situation? It's happening right now. We can end all speculation because it's happening right now. And I get it. They're doing work on it today. They were doing work on it 3 days before this. Again, I say that they probably couldn't do actual construction on that day because of the dust, the dirt. It's probably not a legal thing to have guests on site while you're doing that much actual construction with heavy machinery in the background. But to fake it just didn't seem necessary. There were better things you could have done. It would have been more relevant to see progress or actual workers doing things. I get it. What does all of this matter? It's all for optics. It's all for show. But I don't read a whole lot into the rented equipment other than the way it came out and the optics of it in reverse. Probably would have been better just to skip it. I don't think it's a big deal that it happened, but it probably would have been easier and better to skip. Here's a quote from A's new president, Mark Bedane, formerly of the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, and replacing former A's president, Dave Kaval. Mark was talking about the Fiser family. He said, in a longer sentence, I've condensed it here, but I don't think the meaning has changed, to be very honest. This is a shortened down version of what he said, but I think everything is still intact the right way. He's talking about the family. They, the Fisers, have taken a lot of unfair abuse. They're not in it for the money. They're doing this for the right reasons, to create something special. I used some pauses there to really make sure that that sinks in there. Unfair abuse, not in it for the money, doing this for the right reasons, trying to create something special. In response to the term unfair abuse, reasonable speculation about whether this will happen or not, or was this the right thing to do or not, and understandable opposition by people wearing Cell shirts at the Coliseum and signs and banners and fan movements and people being upset by something taken away, a community asset. I get it. privately owned, but an asset of the community that bears the community's name, and jobs that were taken away, all of that being removed, people being speculative and opposing that are not abuse. Now, granted, there have been some people who are crossing lines of saying inappropriate things, and, we'll acknowledge that absolutely. So if that's what we're talking about, to a certain degree, I hear you. But if you're saying that the speculation of what's happening here and the opposition of what's happening here, which is in large part probably like 99% of what feedback the A's as an organization would get, the Fiser family would get, 99% of it is just unhappy people or speculative people. That is not abuse. That is not unfair abuse. If you want to talk about fair, it's ripping a sports entity out of a town after 57 years without showing the math, without actually showing the reasons why, and saying, just trust me, I tried. If you proved it, we could trust you. But that's not exactly how it played out. So unfair abuse, I'll take exception to that largely. Owning a $1.5 billion sports franchise, I mean, when you say they're not in it for the money, I should say. When that's the quote, but you kind of have to be. You kind of have to protect that asset. Let's be honest, you are doing this for the money. If it wasn't about the money, you would have built Howard Terminal. It is about the money. And to some degree, that's okay. That's more understandable than saying they're not in it for the money. You have to be in this for the money. Like, this is not a $1,500 baseball team or a $1.5 million estimated valuation team. The team's $1.5 billion. This stadium might cost $2.5 billion. You have to be in it for the money. You have to be mindful. Nobody expects anything different. And to say that you're in it for the right reasons and to create something special, those opportunities have existed before and were turned down before. And what is the right thing versus the easy thing? Is it just the easier thing to get something done in Las Vegas versus getting something done in Oakland or in California? So are we talking about really the right thing, the right reasons, or the easy thing? And the easy reasons and way to get something done. Next takeaway was the comment about the sale, the advertised sale of the San Jose Earthquakes to maybe help or not facilitate this process. If there really are funding and financial barriers right now for John Fiser and the family of funding the stadium and not knowing really how much it's going to cost, like, this is a challenge. Let's be very honest here. What they're trying to do is not easy. Forget their level of ability to do this or their desire to do this. What they're trying to do is not the most simple thing financially. And so selling the Quakes right here, right now, was commented on in the Nevada Independent by Howard Stutz, friend of the channel, by the way. Shout out to Howard. He asked John Fiser about this, and here's what Howard wrote in his piece, which I'll link to down below. Fiser confirmed reports that he wants to sell his ownership in his Major League Soccer franchise, the San Jose Earthquakes, but said those proceeds won't go toward the stadium's construction. So you just happen to decide to put the team up for sale. At the moment you know your expenses are going to be great for something else, you just happen to take that same moment to sell one of your other large assets. Quakes might be worth $600 million, might be worth $400 million. Maybe the asking price will be $700 million. We don't really know how that's going to shake out, but the timing of it, that part's kind of a side issue, side thing. You need money, and you're selling something that you have, an asset that you have. It's almost like a pawn shop type deal. You're saying that the sale and the timing is just coincidental? That's hard to believe. Like, do you understand? That's just really hard to believe. And to a lot of people, it confirms their questions about funding and about, is this really all paid for and is the money all there? And look, maybe the sale of the Quakes largely can fund and kickstart the process, and maybe this was what was holding everything back. Maybe this is the golden key to getting it done. Maybe this is the amount of money that makes a lot more people feel a lot more secure about it happening. But to deny it seems kind of crazy, or even to go about not connecting these two things. There's other ways to answer this by saying, well, it's just part of the bigger picture. I'm ready to move on. By the way, the sale of the Quakes, like, it's only advertised that they're up for sale. There is no potential buyer that we know of, like, right here, right now. Of course, there'll be names speculated, but it might take a while for this franchise to be sold. Could take 6 months, could take a year. Maybe the ballpark needs that money before this team can be sold for the right price. So, found that kind of interesting. Here's another takeaway. This is Rob Manfred, baseball's commissioner. Up at the podium, he said, and I, again, have cut this quote down, but I think the meaning of what he was saying is still intact. The A's have put together one of the most talented young rosters in Major League Baseball, not only bringing a baseball team, but a winner here to Las Vegas. So, Rob, are you suggesting that the A's have always been capable of bringing a winner to a city? I mean, doesn't that mean they had every chance to be a winner in Oakland? And look, we're not talking about the 88, 89, 90 Oakland Athletics. We're talking about 2012, 13, 14, and then gutting the team again, and then building back up for 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and then gutting the team all over again. And we'll talk more about who's actually doing the building of the baseball team. That's not the ownership. Ownership writes the checks. Ownership, in this case, has kind of destroyed the sandcastle that the baseball side was building. I'll get to that in just a second. We have all the evidence in the world that the reputation of this team has not been about building a winner. It's taking a winner and dismantling it, systematically dismantling it over and over again. Matt Chapman, Matt Olson. How about the contract that was offered to Marcus Semien? You want to stay here, Marcus? You're kind of on a layaway contract. Now, this was before deferrals were the other way in baseball, like the Shohei Ohtani way of, hey, we're gonna pay you heavy, but it's gonna be after 10 years or whatever the deal is. They wanted to pay Marcus like $1 million a year and then pay him off for a longer term deal, but way down the road. And the amounts per year were like almost unlivable. Almost amazing that was the offer to one of your hometown players, not necessarily homegrown because he was traded from the White Sox to the A's. But again, all the opportunity in the world. My point is all the opportunity in the world to be a winner over and over in Oakland, but that was never demanded of the team. That was never pressured on the team. That's not the direction they go. They almost intentionally went the opposite way. And to make my other point here, you can look at the A's as a franchise that's overperformed. In the same way, you can look at the Tampa Bay Rays. Ownership a question, ownership an issue, big-time decisions made are questioned and controversial sometimes. But the baseball side of those two teams have bailed out the business side of those two teams time and time again. Billy Beane back more than a decade ago, and really David Forst within the last 10 to 12 years, and others, like not just those two as a president or as a general manager, all the baseball operations side. They have overperformed for years. It's not supposed to happen that the A's tear down every, 5, 6, 7 years and then regenerate totally within another 2 to 3 years. Like I get what the commissioner is saying here, and I'm not going to name all the names, which he also had trouble. The commissioner had to go off his cheat sheet for the names. My point is, they're able to regenerate and be competitive in a much shorter time span because of, I'll just say it right here, right now, David Forst and his team. The baseball side, totally separate from the front office and ownership side of the A's. And without this baseball side that's been bailing them out continuously, I mean, it would be a huge question mark of where this team would actually be able to be. Like, they would be losing 100 games per season for like 5 or 6 years instead of just having those 2 back-to-back years in a row. So when you talk about bringing a winner to Las Vegas, why wasn't any team capable of that before? Why was it almost intentional to go against that? But now that's kind of the expectation. And I think the last takeaway here is, again, I didn't see all these parts, but I saw the photos, I saw the visuals. All the kids, the little leaguers, highlighted at the ceremony. I get what the intentions are there. You're trying to engage, you're trying to interact, you're really trying to be part of this brand new community that you've landed in if you're the A's. It's the idea that the A's are really community-oriented. Well, if we're talking about kids, and if I was somebody who lived in Las Vegas, is the Las Vegas Strip really the most family-friendly, kid-oriented area of the region. It goes two ways here. Like, you're saying this is for kids and growing the game, and sure, it's your hometown team, but actually where you're putting the stadium and who you expect to show up to the stadium, is it really for kids? Or is this for tourists and business people and fans of the Cincinnati Reds and Boston Red Sox and Miami Marlins and Seattle Mariners? Like, do you understand what I'm saying here? Like, this doesn't seem like the location of this ballpark doesn't seem like it's about the kids, but now you're saying it's about the kids. And I do realize the community that you're trying to attach to, and I realize if you get kids interested, John Fisher said this himself, if you get kids interested, you're getting their parents interested, and you're getting their entire families interested in coming to your games. But do you realize the community and the youth here in Northern California that you also just left stranded and abandoned? And if you're doing this for the right reasons, I mean, just in volume alone, I'm not saying one region's kids and youth are better than the other. That is not it at all. I'm just saying in terms of actual quantity. Do you know how many kids in Little League teams and kids that have A's hats and were supposed to grow up as A's fans? You know what? I was one of those kids in the 80s. And I have one of those kids who lives at my house, who was supposed to follow in those footsteps. And so that's been abandoned for, we're going to do this somewhere else. If kids and community meant so much to you and you're doing this for the right reasons, wouldn't that have been to stay with the kids in the community that you were already in? And again, I say it's a net loss in sheer volume. There's just a lot more people in the Bay Area. There was a bigger A's community in the Bay Area than whatever you're trying to do in Las Vegas. And it's also kind of ironic that the biggest opponent of public subsidies, the $380 million to build this stadium from the state, from the county, the biggest opponent were educators. So now you're celebrating kids when at the same time, all the educators in the state of Nevada were basically entirely against this because they didn't get money and a stadium project did. All right, those are my 7 takeaways. I've gone way too long already for a video that, if I'm repeating myself, I didn't really have the ambition to make this. I'm making this on request as a responsibility. I feel like I'm just doing my duty here and showing up and making this video. And if you're asking me what I'll do next, like keep covering this, yeah, to some certain degree, but it's not going to be with any regularity. Again, this is not my ambition. Hopefully what I've shared here, the takeaways, the 7 of them, hopefully you think they're fair. I don't have a horse in this race really anymore. Now I'm just here to kind of document and cover what could be the final chapters of a very interesting story. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, thumbs up down there helps me, the video, and the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to see you back here next time.